Hi, everyone. I am here this afternoon for me. I think it may be morning for some people with Suzanne Lubell. If you don't know her yet, you need to check her out. She is the principal consultant at Step Consulting Limited, Step Consulting Incorporated. Let me make that clear. And she is doing this morning building the business case for maintenance and reliability improvement. I'm going to welcome Suzanne with us this morning. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Sanya. Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
All right, let's get straight into the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you. I think with today's continued emphasis on delivering value from our assets while we balance cost, risk, and performance, that need to understand the business contributions from maintenance and reliability activities has never been higher. This session is going to focus on building your business case for your maintenance and reliability improvement. Here's a quick view of my bio. If anyone's got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to chat with me. Today, what we're going to be talking about is really starting to how do we align our maintenance improvement activities to our organizational goals and objectives, a little bit about how we quantify those contributions of M&R, and that's really how we build our business case, and then how do we get started on our improvement journeys. When we're looking at this, one of the first things I like to say is, without a map, the only place you'll be is lost. And this expression really sums up the challenges facing many companies who embark on their maintenance and reliability improvement efforts. So regardless of whether you're starting a major transformation project or focused on a smaller improvement effort, you need to know where you're starting from and what your destination is, kind of in year 1, year 3, and the 5-year look ahead. We could attempt to gaze into our crystal balls for longer than 5 years, but with so many changes in our business drivers, and we've just come through COVID, looking much longer time frame starts to, our crystal ball gets a little bit cracked or cloudy, and we need to understand our current realities and set ourselves up to be adaptable for the future. I like to start off with understanding what is our company or our organization's overall corporate strategic plan. So whether you're working in a municipality, government, or in a private or even a publicly traded corporation, there's going to be this overall organizational strategy. And it's generally held up by 4 main pillars. One that focuses on finance, one around our people, one around our operations, and one around our asset management strategy. And the senior leadership for your company will have some sort of vision in mind. So before we even embark on our reliability and maintenance improvement initiatives, we will have at least determined there's an opportunity for improvement. And this kind of the corporate business drivers behind our destination is going to help you and your team quantify and prioritize the evaluation of your opportunities. I always like to start off with an understanding of where value comes from. Every organization I've ever worked in has looked at value, both public and private sector, And we usually can summarize it up with the mnemonic of SHEER: safety, health, environment, economics, and regulatory compliance. So safety and health are fairly straightforward. I don't think there's going to be any arguments from anyone in attendance today. When we look at this, remember though, it's not just safety and health of your workers on the site, but also the public at large. Same sort of thing for our environment and how we're addressing that. Many of you are in organizations that are looking into your ESG reporting, that sort of thing. There is great value to your organization from getting this right. Obviously, our regulatory compliance, we need to comply with our regulations, full stop there. How we do this in a cost-effective manner and one that provides that level of making sure that our regulators, all of the government agencies understand that we are in compliance really drives good business value. I deliberately left over here our economics. I'd like to encourage you, particularly when we start to look at this, this includes both our operational expenses, so our OPEX, or how many dollars it costs us to operate and maintain our plant to produce whatever our denominator is in terms of boxes of breakfast cereal, barrels of oil, tons of fertilizer for agriculture, whatever numbers of widgets, whatever it is we're producing. So we've got, from our economics point of view, we have this OPEX dollars, and it includes both our repair costs as well as any impact of production loss in those economics, so our throughput and the amount that we've produced. Economics also includes what we call our CapEx dollars, or our capital expenditures. So these are dollars that we're spending to high grade our facility, to add a new train, all of those sorts of things. And some of our larger maintenance and maintenance reliability projects start to fall under this. Regardless of whether we're looking at OPEX or CapEx dollars, I want you to think about the economics and the value driven associated with your opportunity. There's a kind of a few options. As I said, you need to know, you can't, without a map, the only place you'll be is lost. Part of this is around figuring out where you're starting from with some organizational honesty and where you're headed to. And when we start to look at how do we determine where you are, most of them involve some sort of self-assessment. And the key is to determine what kind of improvement you're pursuing. Are you looking at a maintenance and reliability specific improvement, more holistic asset management initiative? And then are you looking at this for one particular site or production location, or are you looking across your entire company? Some of the, for maintenance reliability improvement efforts, there's numerous published resources to help guide your assessment questions. And one of the things that we want to think about is who's involved with it. We can do them internally. We can bring in some specialist maintenance or reliability consulting companies to help us. Or we can look for recognized resources, whether it's the one that's outlined in Uptime, the 3rd edition by John Campbell and Jim Reyes-Picknell, whether we're looking at the SMRP, or perhaps there's many others available via Google search. I don't have a strong preference on one or the other. Okay, for if we end up in more of that asset management improvement efforts, a lot of companies start to assess themselves against the ISO 55000 standards, whether or not they choose to certify. What we're really talking today about is this presentation is going to focus on justifying our maintenance and reliability improvement efforts, but the approach can apply equally well to that more holistic asset management look across. When we're trying to decide who's going to perform our maturity assessment, the understanding of where we're starting from, we've got a couple of different choices. We can do this with an internal team against a standard set of questions, but part of it is we may not know what we don't know. We could bring in a third party to do the assessment completely. They bring in the experience of looking across multiple sites and have some of that comparison. But it's easy for people when you hit the change management phase of any initiative to kind of ignore it and say, well, we weren't involved with that, or to blame it on the consultant. And the third way is kind of a blend of them, bringing in somebody who's knowledgeable, who's performed a lot of these and has seen different opportunities across other organizations, but still involving your own staff and employees when we start to look at it. Any and all of them, figure out the one that has the cons that you can best manage, and move forward with the pros of doing some sort of assessment. I am not talking about years here or months. These are usually fairly quick, but they will help you point to where you're going to get the most improvement. When we start to look at it, we've figured out our as is. It's important to set the goal on where our to be is. If I flip back to the previous slide, you're going to see lots of red and yellow and a couple of blues. Over here on the right, you're going to see where I shifted from a yellow into a green, saying this is the area where I hope to be. And the example on the left, I've just got some arrows pointing into those particular areas where we can focus our attention. You can't tackle everything at once, so let's figure out which ones we're proposing for our improvement projects and how that's going to pull everyone together. Next up, what I'd like to talk about here is what kind of improvement projects we're going to consider. And we really want to think about whether they're scalable, depending on whether you have a single location, multiple facilities where you want to pilot at one location to demonstrate the value, and then roll out similar initiatives across other locations. And you want to go back and look at your business context and your strategy. When we start to look at this, I tried to group on this slide some of the more common maintenance and reliability, integration, and improvement type projects. If your company or location is growing rapidly from a startup to a large producer, maybe you need more focused development on your maintenance business processes to enable that transition from being, let's call it people dependent, to process dependent. Or perhaps you're experiencing frequent parts stockouts that didn't used to have a big impact on meeting production targets when you had redundant equipment or easy access to parts from local suppliers, but could absolutely cripple your ability to produce your product as your location's throughput increases and that train is now required to be available and online at a higher percentage. Or maybe your equipment's fairly new and you want to ensure that you've got a cost-effective, predictive, and preventive maintenance program to ensure the longevity of those assets' life. Or maybe you just need some guidelines for your frontline staff on repair versus replace decisions. Our supply chain is getting longer, both through COVID here and all of the integration and the just-in-time. Let's figure out how we're going to make sure we've got the parts that we need. A number of the facilities that I've worked at are getting a lot older, and particularly around some of the control instrumentation and controls, we're starting to see obsolescence. And what does this do in terms of getting our tactics and our integrity plans together, in terms of evaluating opportunities for our sheer risk and value assessments and all the different pieces that come along with that? How are we going to optimize is really the question. So next up, we've come up with these brilliant ideas for what type of project we're going to do. We need to build our business case. So when we start to look at this in a utopic world of unlimited resources, so both dollars and people, where we could snap our fingers and make changes instantly, we could tackle everything at once. The reality, we can't solve world hunger in one step. We need to take it community by community, country by country to meet this noble goal. Our maintenance and reliability improvement initiatives and projects are much the same. We need to identify those gaps, prioritize our improvement opportunities by value versus effort, and focus on that low-hanging fruit, executing those projects that require minimal effort to demonstrate value, to build the confidence in the initiative while tackling some of those projects that require more time but bring greater overall value. Many times I find our effort can be measured in things like duration to implement, days or weeks versus months and years. How many dollars will it take me to implement? How many people or departments will be affected? How many processes do we need to tweak or completely change? Are we trying to totally upgrade our EAM or CMMS system? I might classify a proposed project that requires one or two people in the same department to work on an initiative for a couple of weeks and maybe no or limited additional equipment or spare parts to be low effort. So think of reevaluating the intervals on my lubrication routes to make better use of my ultrasonic technology, okay, that I already own. You know what? Relatively low effort. Few key individuals, my tribologists, my millwrights, some of the specialists in terms of that predictive maintenance technology involved, but not this insurmountable high cost effort. What you call it? Full-on upgrading and replacement of your EAM CMS tool with all the various departments affected, finance, accounting, IT, you name it. I'd put that one under that high level of effort, and it probably takes a couple of years. Now, that kind of attacks that effort piece here. And this presentation is on building the business case for maintenance and reliability. So let's talk value here. First up, what I'd like to do is give you a bit of an overview of what I'm talking about. When we look at what is the definition of asset management, it's really the coordinated efforts of the organization to deliver value from its assets. And as you can see, our maintenance management folks, asset management goes right from the conception right to the reclamation phase of the life cycle. I realize my create capacity part here is probably about, somewhere between 1 and 5 years. The operate and maintain phase could be 50 or more, and my retired capacity could be about 1 year. But what I'm really talking about here is the maintenance and reliability functions contribute to our overall value of the organization by maintaining the capacity to produce. So upfront, our capital project groups create that capacity. Okay, at the end, our reclamation teams retire it or we sell it. And during the middle of this operate maintain phase, our operations use the capacity to produce, and our maintainers maintain that capacity to allow us to distribute our product or whatever it is that we are delivering, whether it's clean drinking water in a municipal setting, whether it's widgets produced out of manufacturing. When we start to look at our organizational objectives around SHEER, safety, health, environment, economics, and regulatory, as maintenance and reliability professionals, we can best have an impact on those economics through the availability of those assets to enable our operations team to use that capacity to produce. And so it's really a joint effort between operations and maintenance in terms of making sure that we can produce. I thought I'd pull out a couple of common performance metrics that you've probably seen before, and I thought when you look at the slides afterwards, you should be able to pause here and take a peek. But when we're looking at this and we're looking for where our strategic business value comes through, typically it is through our improved equipment and asset availability, reliability, and uptime. Okay, and these are the measures that help us quantify the contributions of the maintenance and reliability improvement. So is it increased availability? Do we have increased throughput, decreased OPEX per unit of production? I really like the picture that comes out of the SMRP best practices. I pulled this out of the 5th edition as figure 1. Pull it out when you need to look at it. When we start to do this, we say many of our improvement initiatives are focused on ensuring that our equipment is available to run. So more predictive maintenance, particularly on condition maintenance and monitoring perform while the equipment is running. And when we do say that the equipment is moving into the PF interval window, we can plan the work, obtain the parts, coordinate the crews, bring it down safely to minimize our MTTR. So what's the value of this extra capacity and availability? Obviously, our business drivers include these financial considerations. So whether we're trying to justify the cost of bringing in our predictive maintenance program to allow us to monitor the condition or to consider our inventory stocking levels of critical components or swap equipment, we needed to bring it into the language of the boardroom, which is dollars. From a very simplified business case. So we've got 24/7, 365 production. Okay, we make 100,000 items per day and we can sell everything that we own. There's no redundancy. 0.1% improvement in the volume produced is an extra 100 items a day. Think about what would be your additional profit, so the revenue minus the cost for producing that extra 0.1%. That's one of the things that we're going to get asked about. We are, as maintenance and reliability professionals, delivering extra capacity and availability of that equipment to produce. We need to think about this, and as a takeaway, this is the heart of reliability engineering economics. As you can tell from that previous slide, we have 365 times days a year times 24 hours per day. This is 8,760 hours in a year. 0.1%, let's call it 9 hours. In your area, okay, in your area of responsibility, how often do you experience more than 9 hours of downtime for an equipment failure or from an extended repair duration? Okay. What if we could produce for an extra 9 hours a year? We already have staff who know our equipment, who know our safety practices. We're not spending a lot of new capital. In a production environment where we can sell everything that we produce and have little or no spare capacity or redundancy, every extra hour can have a larger financial impact on our company. For those of you in public sector, this is about spending taxpayer dollars wisely and ensuring that clean drinking water at an affordable price for our citizens. Okay. How does our asset health monitoring give us the ability to produce this extra 9 hours a year through our planning and scheduling? When we start to look at this and what it means in terms of our prioritization, obviously we want to tackle the projects that have the highest value and the lowest effort opportunities first. So today we're focused on building our business case for M&R improvements. Let's figure out which one of the 10 options on our to-do list, where do they fit on this chart? The ones that are up there in the top left, so high value, low effort, tackle those ones first. And then you may need to dive in a little bit further in the ones in the middle. Wanted to just point out a little bit here. One of the things to think of from an M&R improvement effort, it's not just the M&R team that's looking at this. The stakeholders who get involved include our maintenance, operations, engineering, major projects. Supply management to me is purchasing, inventory, contracts. Our asset integrity includes all of the regulatory driven or compliance driven, so pressure equipment, pipelines, electrical codes, all of that sort of thing. We need to realize that our maintenance and reliability improvement projects have a lot of stakeholders setting us up for success. It leads me into my last slide on critical success factors. We will need to ensure that we've got enough cultural and stakeholder engagement for any proposal we bring forward. We've got our senior management commitment. They're going to ask you questions around the business value of your projects and your proposals. And it's important for us to understand the business case for these maintenance and reliability improvement projects. How long is it going to take us to implement? How long is it going to take us to realize those tangible results which affect the bottom line? Start small, build success, and communicate, often through various channels and delivery spokespeople. I'm just on time here. I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. From an agenda point of view, what we said we would talk about today was to introduce aligning our maintenance improvement activities to our organizational goals and objectives, sort of touching on how to quantify the contributions of maintenance or reliability, and how to get started on your improvement journey. Without a map, the only place you'll be is lost. Some of us will take the express bus, some the milk run, and some are going to experience a few detours or road closures along the way. But your reliability and maintenance improvement effort should focus on driving that business value to align to your organizational goals. Start by knowing where you are, setting your sights on a destination, and taking steps to close the distance. I'd like to invite some questions from anyone in the audience.
All right. So Suzanne did such a good job, Suzanne. Definitely
Thank you,
such a good
Sandra.
job. I don't have any questions just yet from the audience, but I do love a couple of the things that you said in that presentation. Yes, if you don't know where you're going, you will get lost. Um, it's a different story completely if somebody cannot give you proper directions. But that's another thing for another day. Because when people don't give proper directions, you don't know where to go. So
Exactly.
I get that all the time, and I'm like, how do you get here? And they're like, you have to go there and there, and I'm like, no, you all lost me, totally lost me.
How do we get started?
Yes, let's do this again. But I also like that you pointed out the fact that even though we have 10 different things to do, let's focus on the low hanging fruits with the high impact. Because I think sometimes we get a bit distracted and we're like, we go for the high value and the high impact just straight off because we're like, yes, this is going to be the best one. But I love that you brought it back.
I think one of the big things is that if we've got some of these very high effort but high impact projects, we need to get them started. But unless you can start to prove out, on some of the smaller ones that are happening simultaneously, it gives
Yeah.
confidence to the people in your organization that you can
Hmm.
actually do this. And you start to see some of those quick wins and build confidence in your teams. And from a change management perspective, that this big monstrous 3-year project is actually going to go if all of the ones that are a month 6 weeks start to show
Hmm.
value. There's more excitement about continuing on and persevering through some of these big ones.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you definitely want to get your team on board because they're the ones that are gonna drive the project, right? At the end of the day, we need full
Absolutely.
support from them. And I know AW says, he liked it very much. I know he loved the quote about adaptability.
Oh, okay, yes, for sure.
Definitely. I don't have any other questions right
Okay.
now, but going back to what you said, definitely, let's go for the low hanging but high impact fruits because that those are the ones that are definitely going to help the organizations because they need that. Let's start. Let's get them winning.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening in, and for those of you who are going to listen on the recording after the fact, please feel free to reach out through the LRVS app to me,
Hmm.
or to friend me on LinkedIn, and to continue this conversation. But this app has got some really cool discussion forums, so let me know and we can meet up there.
Yeah, check out the video rooms. I know we have Michelle coming in saying that, thanks so much for sharing your experience, Suzanne. She's a huge fan of building momentum by many people making small improvements, and that is
Oh,
so
for sure.
important.
Excellent.
Definitely. All right. So thanks a lot. Thanks to everybody for joining us. And we will be seeing you all in the next set of sessions soon.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye.